The Weather Service issuing a level 10 warning for torrential rains, flooding and mudslides in some coastal areas of KwaZulu-Natal. Let's speak now to SABC News reporter Minoshni Pillay. She's on standby for us, Umdloti. Minoshni, a very good afternoon to you. What's the latest on the ground there? And also, do we know if there's any word that will be coming from the provincial government any time now about how they plan to activate more resources to some of these areas that are already affected?
Griselda, good afternoon to you and the viewers. It feels like we are right back where we started, about a month and a half ago. Where I am right now is in Umdloti. It's one of the seaside towns north of the city that was among the heaviest hit areas last month during those floods that took over 400 people across the province. And currently, Umdloti, almost the recovery efforts that have been done in the town in the last month and a half have almost amounted to nothing, one could say. The cleanup operations of the removal of, I believe residents say here, 1,000 truckloads of sand. That sand that has been removed has now come down the banks again. The sewerage pipes have been exposed again. About 10 minutes ago, the SANDF drove in, and they are right at the far end of this little town trying to evacuate residents and holidaymakers that are now have been overnight trapped. Residents were issued warnings by the city of heavy, persistent overnight rainfall. However, I don't think anybody really envisaged that so soon after last month we would be back in that same situation. I'm seeing, it's just a pity that due to network and us not being able to physically get out of the area that we can't bring you the visuals, but I'm going to describe to you what I'm seeing. Residents are literally packing up their belongings into bin bags and buckets and carrying that with the help of the SANDF over mounds of sand that have come through in between holiday flats. And a lot of these complexes and these flats along the beach side here are inhabited by people that live in the area. So it's people that are carrying and picking up the pieces of their lives. And I must tell you as well, Griselda, from very early this morning, a town called La Mercy, which is about 10 minutes north of here, was cut off from Durban in last month's flood on the arterial M4 highway. And what residents there have been doing for the last month and a bit is heading further north to take a toll route into the city for work and for school and things like that. That toll route now that joins the M4 north to the M2 washed away last night. The residents in that little town of Definager, Sea Tides, La Mercy, totally locked in, a little landlocked area between last night and this morning. I myself, to try and get out this morning, had to go use unsavory methods, let me put it that way. Vehicles trapped in complexes in the areas that we're in, and the emergency teams now present in different areas trying to persuade people not to take risks. At all the different off-ramps that I came to between La Mercy and Umdloti to get here, emergency scenes on site, residents coming out in their personal capacity just to try and deter residents that are seemingly now trying to get out of the north of the city and get back further south to try and get to family that they can seek shelter with, because these areas north of the city, these coastal areas, are landlocked at the moment, if one could put it that way. The services and amenities in these areas, it's a ghost town currently. The only activity right now, apart from search and rescue teams and the SANDF, are residents that are scurrying and trying to get out. But the real challenge is that even the arterial roads within these little areas have collapsed overnight. So a really, really dangerous thing to do right now is to do what I did this morning, is to try and get out.
Please try and stay safe, Minoshni. I mean, before we let you go, are we expecting an update from the provincial government anytime soon? I know that they're trying to manage resources to some of the areas that are worst hit. We know that people have been trying to pick up the pieces of their lives since the last devastating floods. And also, the fear at this stage is loss of life. We had over 440 people who lost their lives in the previous floods, and there's a fear at this stage that residents are just going to struggle to try and get from point A to point B. Are we expecting an update anytime soon from the provincial government about the extent to what we're seeing at the moment?
I can't confirm for you at this stage whether the provincial government is likely to give us an update. It is likely, but we have not received confirmation that will happen today. I must also say that in the last month and a half, what local officials have been really at pains to do is to restore water, electricity, and network connectivity services. And in the blink of an eye, overnight, in these areas north of the city, all three of those services have more or less collapsed. There is no water, no electricity in these areas, from Tongaat all the way to Westbrook, Umdloti, La Mercy. No water, no electricity, and very limited network connectivity as well. So all the effort that has gone into getting those services restored while road repairs are underway, we are now back at square one. And so there's a real appeal from the search and rescue teams that I chatted to not too long ago is that please will residents just stay home. They know that residents are panicked. They physically can see them, carrying their belongings, trying to shuffle kids into cars and to get out. But the challenge is that getting out is not as simple as it was. The damage that was done last month and the shape and the roads that was done, whatever little held has now started to give way as well.
From your assessment,
being sounded.
Yeah, from your assessment on the ground, Minoshni, is there enough to assist those who are being affected by this? Because I recall the last time, and I did raise this issue with Bongani Kema as well as our colleague Mlondi Khatebe, about where are people going to be housed. Already you have community halls where many people had taken refuge to. They had been complaining about, food and just blankets as well as mattresses to sleep on. That's where they've taken a refuge. Many still remain in that kind of setup. Is there any indication at this stage what is to be done with those who are being affected? You're describing to me residents who are packing their belongings in plastic bags.
At this point, those community halls that you speak of that were established are already packed to capacity. And there has been no indication from authorities as to where those that have now been impacted overnight. We know there are rains expected to continue today and into tomorrow. Where do others go now? Where do those that have been impacted this time around go? And I think what a lot of people between last night and this morning in these parts have been saying is our local councillor has not even told us what our options are. A lack of connectivity is creating the panic. People walking around randomly on street corners trying to find signal, looking to call someone to say, what can I do? A resident saying to me, I managed to walk down the road, call the eThekwini call center and to log a complaint.
Yeah.
But in a situation like that, calling a call center is just not good enough.
Yeah. Minoshni, thank you very much indeed for that.